Hey guys, and welcome back to Kick Steele's Ramblings with your girl, Kick Steele. Today is my first official video, I should say. Did a video yesterday that was just the intro to the channel, but today's video will be kicking off things with our first topic. And that topic is dealing with the big V. And no. I'm not talking about virginity. I'm talking about vulnerability. I hope I pronounced that properly. I get tongue-tied. I talk fast and I get tongue-tied at times, so I hope I pronounced that properly. So vulnerability, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Being vulnerable is terrifying. Just to think of being raw and open and letting your guard down to let someone in is very terrifying. But it is a beautiful experience when it is done with the right person. So, cue the intro, then we get into it. Okay, so when we speak about being vulnerable, we have to first know what this actually means. I'm sure that we have heard this in so many movies and television shows. We have heard it on social media. And for those of you who do therapy, I'm sure that you have come across this several times, being vulnerable. Being vulnerable, according to the Webster Dictionary, is capable of being physically or emotionally wounded. Now you see why it is so terrifying. Because when you're vulnerable, you actually let your guard down. You are open, you are raw, you are real, you're honest. So it can lead you to be open to attacks. And in this case, hurt. That's the attack we're talking about, hurt. And when I say hurt, I mean emotionally hurt. So that's the type of vulnerability that we're looking at today. Emotional vulnerability. Letting that guard out and actually letting someone in. It's scary. And the scary part of it is if you have had bad experiences with persons who were supposed to take care of you. Persons who were supposed to, be a guard for you. Persons who you entrusted with your love, your heart, your soul. Persons who you let in, but they turn around and betrayed you. So when you have been through experiences like this is very hard, very hard to actually be vulnerable with anyone else. It really and truly is. I'm speaking from experience. I have had my vulnerability thrown back in my face by persons who were supposed to protect me, persons who were entrusted with, taking care of me. And it sucks, it hurts, and it can scar you, and it forces you to build a guard around yourself. So you're very mindful of who you let in. But there's a downside to this. Sometimes you tend to push away persons who mean you good. You are afraid to take chances on people. You are afraid just to, let go and be. So if you aren't careful, you'll find that you actually guard yourself into a prison. You want to be, vulnerable with someone so bad, but it's because you've guarded yourself into that prison, it is so hard for you to actually let go and let anyone in. As I'm saying again, speaking from personal experience, I have had moments where I'm like, oh my God, if only someone could just reach in and touch my soul, but yet I am not willing to let that guard down so they can actually touch my soul. Like I really want it, but I'm afraid to want it. You understand? So I have somewhat guarded myself into a prison. And even with me doing this channel right now, this is a huge step for me. Huge step. because this in itself is actually me, letting go somewhat and putting myself out there, and that's not something that I do easily. All right, so we have looked at what vulnerability is, and we have looked at, why persons are less inclined to be vulnerable. But the truth of the fact is this: being guarded, being closed off, it really does not benefit anyone in any way. Yes, don't get me wrong, you have to guard yourself. The Bible even says that you have to guard yourself, you have to guard your heart. But you're not supposed to guard your heart from everything and everyone. If you do this, you won't grow. There's no room for growth. You won't have real deep connections with people. By guarding yourself, by closing all these doors, you can actually shut yourself out. Yes, I know it sounds weird, but you can actually shut yourself out when you're like this. And you can hold yourself back greatly. You can miss out on so many opportunities just because you choose to be closed off. You're not taking a risk because you choose to be so skeptic and pessimistic about everyone and everything. You can actually be losing out on life fulfilling opportunities. You may never know. So with that being said, I'm not saying that you're going to go ahead now and just, oh, everyone welcome. No, that's not it. You have to still be mindful. You still have to be observant of people and situations. But to completely close yourself off will not help you in the long run. So going forward, you just need to take it a step at a time. Don't be skeptic about everyone. Don't be pessimistic about everything. Be willing to take a risk if the setup aligns, right? And I know sometimes we put our faith and our trust in people because we think we know them, and then they do a total 180. Is 180 or 360? They do a total turnaround on us, so we never really knew them. But the thing is this: you can't blame yourself for that. At the end of the day, you tried. At the end of the day, you were willing to. So that L that you thought was a loss is actually a lesson. That's it. I don't look at my L's as losses. I look at my L's as lessons, and I suggest that you do the same too. Take a risk. The L's are lessons in life. Be observant, and you want to be very mindful, very, very mindful. But don't be skeptic and pessimistic towards everyone that you meet, because sometimes some situations or some persons, the intention is good, but because you're not willing to give it a try, you will never know what you're missing out on. Being vulnerable is not easy. The thought of it is terrifying because it's as if you're giving someone the key to your downfall if they choose to use it in a negative way. But think of the fact if they use this in a positive way, you may never know what it is that you're really and truly missing out on. Being vulnerable with the right people in life is the best thing. It is. Truly, it is the best thing. But first and foremost, you have to be vulnerable with you. You have to be vulnerable with yourself. You have to be honest. Sit down and have an honest conversation with yourself about everything. And as I said before, you can't have real connections with people if you continue to close everyone off. And I'm sure that everyone wants at least one real authentic connection with someone in life. And sometimes it doesn't even have to do with experiences. Sometimes it's how we were raised. That, especially for men, men were raised to not show emotions and not show feelings, and that is like total foolishness. Men are humans. They have feelings too. I'll touch on this in another video. But I blame, society for a lot of the ideologies that we have, and we have a lot of unlearning to do. And unlearning is it's a difficult thing to do, but we have a lot of unlearning to do where several things are concerned. We do really and truly have several things to unlearn. One, vulnerability is not weakness. It's not weakness, and it is not pathetic to be vulnerable. In fact, to be vulnerable, it is a sign of bravery, it shows courage, and it actually shows strength. There is a quote by Atticus that says, "Never mistake vulnerability for weakness," and I couldn't agree with it more. Do you know how much strength it takes to actually lower your guard and actually let someone in? That's not weakness. That is strong. That is so strong. And there's another quote by Bernie Brown. I hope I pronounced that right. Vulnerability is not winning or losing. It is having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is our greatest measure of courage. I don't even have to go into that. It's our greatest measure of courage. That just there is enough right there for us. It is, trust me. So going forward, remember, vulnerability is not weakness. It is not weakness. It is the greatest measure of courage. So I hope that my little rambling session today has enlightened you. It has inspired you to, take on that brave face and that courageous hat and the strength of vulnerability. You may never know what you're missing out on. So just, be mindful, be observant, take it a step at a time. Your L's are lessons and not losses, and just take a risk. You may never know where it will lead you. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me on my rambling session. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. You would mean a great deal to me, and I really appreciate it. Stay blessed. See you on the next video.